What is up? What is up? It's Shoot the Gap. It's week 16 semifinals. IDP, Mike Woolert, Nate Markham. How are you, my friend?
Oh, not too bad. Just advanced to had a bye week in a few weeks last week, so I'm hoping the players that blew up last week can kind of continue to do the same. I always hate when players blow up during my bye week.
Oh, is there nothing worse? That's
awful.
What's worse, when the players blow up and during your bye week, or when you get to if you get eliminated from said championship and your team is in the third, fourth place game and your team blows up then and you outscore both teams in the championship.
Yeah, I think that's probably the worst. I think that's the worst.
So bad. Makes my blood boil thinking about it. Putting up like $190 and everybody else scores a 150.
Yeah, it's like son of a bitch.
I hate it so much.
And there's nothing you can say. You're like, dude, if I made the finals, I would have kicked your ass. Like, well,
exactly.
You know, you got beat. You know, I was like, ugh.
Exactly. You just can't say anything.
So like in one of the matchups I think I'm avoiding Hurts.
Yeah.
But I lost Kyler. So like
damn.
And I'm starting Deshaun Watson. So it's like in a horrible weather game. Yeah. So I don't know.
That is a rough one because we just on the last hour we talked about all these offensive options, and Deshaun Watson was he wasn't the ultimate avoid because at some point, that you're hoping that maybe he relies on his legs a little bit in this matchup and he can take advantage of that little built-in floor.
So one of the weather warnings that we have for Cleveland is heavy freezing spray warning.
What is that? What is happening? What is going on here?
Heavy freezing spray. I'm like, I have no idea what that even means.
I understand those three words. I know what heavy is.
I know
what freezing is, and I know what spray is. I've never seen them combined into a weather report. We live in weird times, Mike. We live in very odd times.
We do. Yeah, I have no idea what to make of that because like it's going to be freezing, so I don't know what there is to spray. It's snow.
Right.
It's snow. There's no rain. When I can't even imagine what that would even be like. I mean, it's just gonna rain ice.
I guess, but that doesn't.
But it's spraying.
I don't think spray. I mean, ow, that sounds painful.
Yeah. No, it doesn't sound fun at all.
Maybe that bodes well for Deshaun. Maybe that will get into the eyes of all the defenders and give him a little bit of a leg up. We can only hope. I have no clue. It seems like that is the consensus around the NFL's weather.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of games on Saturday, game tomorrow, some news and notes, a lot. I mean, some pretty big ones, and I haven't like as far as order wise, I don't know why I didn't lead off with the one to me that I think is the most impactful. Jack Sanborn, IDP, just hero. That's when I wish I had that drop, the I need a hero drop. But on the IR, is there anybody? Does that move the needle at all for you for Nicholas Morrow or for anybody else with Joe Thomas?
Morrow, I like. It's actually I think a pretty good matchup for linebackers. If I wasn't mistaken, I have Morrow. I think Morrow. Someone's got to get tackles, but I don't mind Joe Thomas because like. The Bears are primarily a two linebacker defense, a very vanilla two linebacker defense. So the LB2 opposite Morrow it pretty much has an every down role. So at this point, I want, if I need a person, I need a guy if you can get again in week 16, someone who can potentially have a 3-down role. I mean, I'm interested in that. So probably like an LB3, LB4.
And something to pay attention to is Justin Fields' status. If he actually, for some reason, misses the game, I don't think he will, but whether there's smoke, there's fire, and his name's come up. If he misses time, I mean, it's not irrational to think that Sanborn and Thomas Thomas and Morrow could be on the field 75 plus times against this Buffalo team that is pretty, generous to the opposing linebackers.
Yeah.
I don't know if Morrow would be in a spiral at all, kind of like like a lot of opposing defenses want to do to Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
But again, weather situation there on the ground.
Yeah.
Interesting plays. We say it and we'll say it, later. Don't get too cute, but if you can get an every down roll linebacker at this stage of the game, if anything, pick them up.
That's
right?
what I'm interested in. That's what I'm interested in.
The some other linebacker talk, I guess. Leighton Vander Esch is out this week. I personally, we did this 17 weeks ago. We had this conversation about Damone Clark and what his likelihood of playing this year was. And collectively, I think we all were in agreement that it was not looking good. Neck injury, right?
Yeah, it was a neck injury. It might have been a spinal fusion surgery. It was like, he was a full on. I mean, I liked his profile coming out of college, but he was a full on fade for me. But like they said, how Sonny Weaver says in draft day, it's a different world that we lived in 30 seconds ago.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right. Very underrated movie, by the way, that doesn't deserve only to be watched during NFL draft time. It's good anytime.
It is good any day, any time of the day, any day of the week.
But it does build up around draft. But I have been very impressed with Damone Clark's play.
Yeah, me too.
I think that Anthony Barr probably takes a bigger uptick, but I think Damone Clark is actually a better player, and I think he has more IDP. Like, he has a better chance to finish as an LB1 than Anthony Barr ever does.
Yes. Yeah. If you take a look at Barr, when Barr had a 3-down roll, he'd have those big plays. He'd get some sacks, but he's never had like a high tackle floor, even as a 3-down guy. So I mentioned Clark in my waiver piece, I think he has more tackle upside. I think he ended up with 74% of the snaps. And, if he kind of moves into Leighton's role, Leighton's role was about an 80 to 85, sometimes 90%. So, and I think with Dallas's matchup, Eagles, I mean, not a bad matchup. Especially if Minshew plays, I think Minshew can take advantage. I think he still has a good arm. I think he'll be able to take advantage of some of the cornerbacks. I think the receivers have a good matchup, but I still think there's going to be some running opportunities. I still think there's going to be some dump off opportunities. So, and the Cowboys again kind of play majority 2 linebackers. Curse is still up in the box kind of as a linebacker, but Clark is all just playing is fantastic for him.
Yeah, I love his efficiency. I think last week was like 17% tackle efficiency. Even on the season, without even pulling it up, I would bet it's over 15% just from what we've seen on even limited snaps as a whole. The speaking of limited snaps, Chad Muma. Here we thought last week, here he's practicing, and the conversation came up, the question marks of what's what percentages will it be? Will it be 50-50 between him and Devin Lloyd? Will it be 70-30? Will he get eased back in? And what did we see?
I wouldn't even call it an easement. Like the first snap or first series was Lloyd. Second series was Muma. They ping-ponged for a little bit, but then Lloyd ended up with 91%, and Muma got 11 snaps. And everything that I thought or was reading, Muma will play, or when he's healthy, Muma is going to play, and they only played, but unfortunately 11 snaps, and that sucked.
Yeah. What do you think if you had to put your finger on a percentage this week? Where would you? I mean, it's hard to say.
It's hard to try. I can't. Yeah. I mean, I will say this. Week 16, I'm not trusting Chad Muma.
Are you trusting Devin Lloyd?
I don't think I can trust either of them because I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
And I loved everything that Devin Lloyd did last week. 90%. He blitzed, 15+% of the time. He had decent tackle efficiency. I just don't trust that we go.
I don't know what's going to happen.
We talk next week and we're like, Chad Muma got 75% of the snaps. What the hell happened? And I just don't like that. That's it's not fun. I don't like these. Yeah.
if I don't have a crystal ball, I don't know.
Right.
You're experts. I'm like, no, well, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I don't have an inside scoop into the locker room. I don't have that access. I don't know. So I don't think I can trust any of them in my lineup.
If you can follow on the Jags beat writers, if one of them talks to the coach and the coaching staff says Chad Muma is going to get back into an every down role, then yeah, maybe even do that. I still don't know if I would trust it because it's coach speak. Because if that was the case, Isaiah Simmons would still be a middle linebacker at some point. Zaven Collins, and who knows? Jordan Hicks would have never been traded. It was just all kinds of bullshit that we hear.
Yep.
What is your take? So in Tennessee, Dylan Cole didn't practice again. We saw Monty Rice 2 weeks ago step up, continued that step up this past week. Zach Cunningham has been activated. Do you think Zach Cunningham plays this week?
So was he activated to play, or was he like activated to?
Well, he was designated to return from the IR last week, but they didn't activate him. There is a good chance that he's activated this week, is what I should say.
I don't trust Cunningham. I won't. Okay. I don't, because again, Tennessee is more so like a single linebacker. They play more single linebackers, so the second linebacker maybe sees 40 to 50% of the snaps. So I'm trusting Monty Rice, but I can't trust the second linebacker. Gibbons had 46% of the snaps opposite Rice when Cole left. So it's the second linebacker doesn't have too much of a role. Monty Rice took over the play calling duty. So if he's gonna wear the dot and call the plays, you can pretty much count on him having a 3-down role. So for me, whether it's Gibbons or whether it's Cunningham, I can't trust those guys. And I'll get to my quote later on when we talk about player fade, but there
you go.
But yeah, no, it's Monty Rice, and that's the guy that I'm interested in.
Yeah, same here. I'm right there with you. Some other new Sab Hubbard. Disappointingly that he's going to miss some time. Over under, well, not over under, because it's either yes or no. Yes or no. Does Trey Henderson put a club on his hand and actually play this week?
I mean, he's out. He's looking like he's moving around.
Would you start Trey this week?
If he plays, probably.
Yeah,
I probably would.
I have a hard time not playing him, right? New England's a tough matchup. Don't get me wrong. New England does a really good job of playing around a protection and making sure that they isolate the one area. You hope that up the middle, someone like BJ Hill and DJ Reader cause enough issue.
Cause some havoc up front.
What about Joseph Asai? You mentioned his name last week. Any interest in him at all?
Because I think so. And as I go to my handy dandy other monitor here, this is fantastic. It's
a professional podcast with 3 monitors at any given time.
Asai played 50%, which is actually a pretty big uptick for him. I think Hubbard had about 36, and I know Hendrickson didn't play.
Correct.
But yeah, Asai had 50%, and
Cam Sample had
76,
which is crazy.
But Asai he's again, I think, kind of like a Yannick Ngakoue type. Not going to probably get a whole lot of tackles, but he's got the big play upside.
Exactly. That's pretty much what my take is as well. So here, hitting close to your neck of the woods, what's the Jadeveon Clowney situation? He's in concussion protocol. Have you heard any more on that, as far as if you think he's going to play, and if he doesn't play, do you have a next man up? Are we still on the was it Alex Wright?
It's Alex Wright, probably. That's going to be the next guy up. And yeah, it's not really that good. And Clowney didn't. He hasn't been what he was last year. Unfortunately, I think he's also kind of been a little bit dinged up, but he hasn't been what he was last season. But yeah, it'd probably be Alex Wright coming up.
That's what I'm kind of looking. Nothing that I'm going to actively go out. And do anything crazy in terms of the hope or the upside of,
yeah,
they're going to focus so much attention. And New Orleans offensive line is not bad, even though they lost. I think Cesar Ruiz is out. I think it's the middle of that defensive line, which I don't want to trust on a weekly basis, especially in the it's the fucking semifinals, man. Can't get super crazy and get wild. Let's say you had Trayvon Walker, you would never have been starting him at this point in the season, most likely. If so, you wouldn't have made it this far. But any reaction, overreaction, underreaction to him being out? Anything step up or worthwhile?
Not really. I mean,
me
not
either.
really. Not really. I mean, Dwayne Smoot, nah.
Yeah.
He's been okay, but nothing really stands out. I hope Jacksonville makes the playoffs. I'm kind of rooting for them a little bit. It'd be cool to see them win the division. And I know, and I'm not saying that just because Hollywood's not on with us, but
right.
It would be a good story to kind of see them do well.
And look, I even wore my Houston Oilers hat for Hollywood, basically, is to rub it in his face a little bit, but he didn't show up. And so hopefully Hollywood, when you watch this or see this, just know I have my Houston Oilers hat, mostly in love for you, but it is neither here nor there. What is here is potentially another week of Caden Ellis. Pete Werner made the return, then bam, re-aggravates an injury, didn't practice yesterday, don't know as much detail. If Caden Ellis does play, is he one of those kind of, I'm going to say, a must start again based on what we saw out of his production, right?
Yeah, I think he's a plug and play. I think if he goes, if Warner's out, with the weather,
absolutely.
I think you're probably going to see quite a bit of Kareem Hunt. I know Chubb is up in the air. I know his status is up in the air.
That's what I was going to ask you too.
So I don't really have anything on Chubb. I just know he's questionable, but I would imagine he plays. I know there's really not a whole lot to play for. I know technically the Browns are still in the playoff hunt, but essentially they need to hit a 17-leg parlay to make the playoffs.
Exactly. And if that's the case, the last thing I want to do is trust and put too much pressure on my all-world running back with the foot injury, and knowing that you're not going to have Kareem Hunt next year. Probably not. Assuming you're not going to have Kareem Hunt next year.
Probably not. Keep
Nick Chubb. And then to round out some of the news, Jordan Poyer didn't practice again. Nothing completely new in Buffalo with a lot of the injuries. They're a little wonky to figure out when it comes to that. Deshaun Elliott for Detroit hasn't practiced, doesn't look positive going forward. And I think that rounds out the news and notes section. If there's anything else, obviously, that pops up throughout the week, you can always check out Mike or I's Twitter, Mike_Wohlert, or Nate Markham.
Yeah, when I'm not tweeting out Seinfeld gifts, I'll tweet out a little nugget of info for you.
He'll probably incorporate it into a Seinfeld gif, which is the ideal way. That's how most of us like to take in our fantasy content, is with, I mean, hell, our podcast has been 80% the other guys, wrestling talk and occasionally football. And look what we've done. We have people that actually tell us they think we're doing good. Hell, I was number one in the Fantasy Pros rankings last week. What the hell?
Clock's right twice a day, right?
Damn right. Broken clock is right.
Broken clock is right twice
exactly.
a day.
Yeah, your analogies are right once a day.
Pretty much.
That's okay. Still 50% Hall of Fame if you're a baseball player, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, you're elite.
Exactly. You're the best ever, honestly.
Best ever if you're hitting 500.
Oh, man. If we hit 500 on these Money and Mirage every single week, which I think we have, I think that's been very, very helpful for the listeners. And so let's jump right into some of these. Some, I got to tell you, a little questionable as far as like knowing early in the week. Randy Gregory, for example. I don't know how much play Randy Gregory is going to get. I like Randy Gregory a lot. In fact, actually, dare I say, love this matchup for Randy Gregory. Do you think he actually plays a heavy workload, or is he still getting eased in and they're going to rotate?
Well, maybe he had 22 snaps. So, against Arizona and Trace McSorley, I think he can do, even if he plays 30 or 35 snaps, there's a lot of damage he can do. He's got a lot of upside.
No. Denver is against the Rams.
Oh, the Rams.
Even better.
Oh, no, okay, yeah, even better.
Yeah. Tampa's against Arizona.
Tampa's Arizona. Yeah, that's right. Tampa's Arizona, and they don't have anybody to rush the passer.
They don't, but that's okay. You can find somebody against Arizona against Trace McSorley, and I promise you that should be an interesting. That should be one. For our sack lunch, we have to pick a Tampa Bay pass rusher, not a linebacker, but a pass rusher that will get. Or defensive lineman will say that's going to get a sack. We'll remember that when we go around. But Randy Gregory against the Rams.
Oh, and Baker. Baker had his little 15 minutes of fame on that comeback, but boy, did he revert back to who he was against the Packers, holding the ball too long, bad passes. In 35 snaps for Gregory, he could do some damage.
That's kind of what I'm thinking too. So I'm going to say it's a money play if. It's a money play if. The investment would be good if the stock market opens and allows Randy Gregory to see enough snaps. Here's one. He's 107 years old. He made my waiver wire article each week. I kind of wanted to not buy into his production because I thought he would get, between injury or just overall hype. JJ Watt last week. Granted, I know each week is different, but here's the matchup against Tampa this week. If we go off last week, there's an 84%, defensive snap share. He had a 16% pressure rate. Granted, the win rate at 9% wasn't great, but the pass grade of 85. And what has he done over the past, month? He's been fantastic. Do we buy into this continuing against Tampa?
With Brady, they've got a pretty decent offensive line. He's lining up on a pretty decent side of the offensive line, but I don't know. Brady isn't as quick with the ball as he used to be.
I don't think so.
So he's susceptible to some sacks. So I think it's all a matter on the offensive line and how, and the protection. Josh Wells is 43rd out of 81 when it comes to tackles in their grade. He should also be on Shaq Mason. Exactly. He's 17th out of 86 in grading. So it's a little bit tougher of a matchup.
I think the immediate response
it's probably a mirage.
That's my concern. I think that I immediately want to say money because, they don't have Tristan Wirfs. That has to be an upgrade going, for a pass rush to go to Wells. But I think everything that you've said, I've seen as well, is they're not disappointed in the production they've gotten from that guard tackle tandem.
It's hard, and is Wirfs still out, or how long is he on an IR or like?
Oh man, I want to tell you I know, and I don't. I know that what I had seen is that the look to be without Wirfs, not a guarantee that he's out. To the best of my knowledge, I should have it. I'm supposed to be the host. I didn't drop the ball again. Look at this.
It's a day that ends in Y. It's a day that ends in Y.
I know, but this is when I need Hollywood and Jorge here to really just beat down on me in addition so that I feel terrible about myself and I don't make this mistakes again. But that's okay.
I can't believe Wirfs actually fell the 13th pick. I thought he was the best offensive lineman in that draft. I don't know how he fell the 13th.
I quit. I give up on the draft sometimes. I look at some of I don't know anything, but I think I know something. And yet so many times I question some of these picks and how long people lasted and what they were thinking. I think, again, this isn't a knock on Trayvon Walker because he's out this week, but nothing I saw ever said that Trayvon should be taken
was a number one pick
over Aiden Hutchinson. I mean,
or Thibodeau. Everybody got hung up on Thibodeau and his he had character concerns, off the field issues, and it's
I don't care. I ain't dating the guy. Just, go out and say. And then what did we see this week? Kevin Thibodeau, which again,
That's a number one pick.
Hell,
that is a first round pick.
God, and his PFF grade was just like, it's like 88, whatever it was. And I look at that, and again, they know more than I do. They know how to grade and evaluate, and there was more aspects. Nothing about that game said it was anything short of 100%. Maybe I missed some snaps, but every snap I watched, he was in the backfield, posing, getting to the quarterback, just playing, running rough shack over everybody. And I thought it would be Azeez Ojulari's game, and it was. He had a great game too. But when you have Thibodeau's game, everything's going to pale in comparison.
Yeah,
it was impressive. I hope. I wanted to say Thibodeau, Money, or Mirage this week as well, but I don't want to have to put us on the spot like that. So I took some other options, like this next one, Sam Williams, who I love. I love that, and the snaps concern me, but I'm gonna guess that Dorrance Armstrong's gonna not play. What do you think?
Yeah, if any of Lawrence or Armstrong are out, Williams, I think, is like a DL3.
Okay, that's perfect.
I'd say probably I probably am going to say a DL3. He had 24 snaps last week, 18 pass rush snaps. Geez, you talk about efficient. 13% pass rush pressure rate.
Yeah.
Which is not too horrible for a rookie. He's not converting many of his pressures yet, but he's getting to the quarterback. So tackle heavy league, I'm not starting him.
Right.
But if you're like in a big play scoring, there's definitely some upside.
The matchup we know is going to be tough, right?
Tough. Yeah. But if it's Minshew, at least it's not Jalen Hurts.
That's exactly right. That's a great point.
So, Jalen Hurts, he's shifty.
Yeah. And it's, even if they rotate back and move him around, you're going to get at some point Lane Johnson. And you're the other time, if it's not Lane Johnson, you're going to get Jordan Mailata, which neither is great. You have to wonder if Minshew will just try to get rid of the ball early and get it to maybe Dallas Goedert, who's returning. Don't know. But that's our Sam Williams. Let's go back to the linebacker in that same game. We talked earlier about Damone Clark, and without Leighton Vander Esch, I personally think he's a money play, but it also, it's hard to get cute at linebacker because that's the position that you don't want to screw around with. What do you think?
So if you're in a league where you're starting 3 to 4 linebackers, I don't necessarily have a problem with him as my LB3, LB4. But say you're in like a 2 or 3 linebacker league, and say you have Dre Greenlaw, CJ Mosley, Patrick Queen, and Damone Clark. I'm sitting Clark, and I'm playing Queen, Greenlaw, and Mosley. If that's who my 4 are, even with Mosley's crappy game last week. That's the kind of linebackers I will play over Clark. So if it came down to maybe Alex Singleton and Clark, maybe I'll play Clark because I think Clark will maybe have a bigger role. I think the Cardinals are a little bit tougher of a matchup for actually it might be a better matchup. I don't know. Trace McSorley. I don't know what to expect.
You don't know, and that's the problem. You can't know that. That's so hard.
But that's kind of the linebacker tier that I am looking at. Oh no, no, it's doing it again. No wonder. I'm looking. Rankings were coming up from last week. So no, I was looking at the wrong matchup. So Denver is playing the Rams. The Rams are a tougher matchup.
Right.
The Rams. Yeah. Sorry about that. The Rams are a tougher matchup because the Rams only had 45 offensive snaps last week.
Exactly.
And I think that there were only 38 total tackles for the Packers.
The crazy thing is you might have set a different team, but you basically encapsulated an entire offense at the same time, because Arizona and the Rams will probably have a very James Conner and Cam Akers led attack, and no passing that's going to go anything more than a heavy percentage to one player with poor reception percentage, and just 40 offensive plays.
So I think Josie Jewell and Alex Singleton's tackle floor, I think is unfortunately, it's a bad matchup for both of those guys. And yes, both of those guys at any one moment out of if they have 45 or 50 plays and there's only 45 tackles, yes, both of them can combine for half of those. But
exactly,
it's still a tough matchup. And Devondre Campbell is a tackle machine. He only had 5.
Yeah, exactly.
So
if that doesn't say anything, nothing does. That's perfect analogy right there.
Yep.
We talked earlier about Zach Cunningham. We don't know the status. One linebacker situation in Tennessee. I think it's safe to say we're both a mirage for Zach Cunningham until we know definitively that he is the number one, which we don't think will happen this week.
I don't think it will happen. I don't think it would ever happen.
I know. I never say never. I can't trust anything. Who knows? Hell, it's Tennessee. Yeah. They've done wonkier shit. What about Robert Spillane? Now we've seen Miles Jack basically just eliminated from this linebacking group.
Yeah.
We've seen Robert Spillane take on 100% of the linebacking duties. What about this week, this matchup? I mean, for me, I don't know if I just absolutely love the Raiders matchup, but I don't hate it by any means, especially if they can lean, that is, on Josh Jacobs. You just worry about that hand injury, and if that means they're going to be forced to pass a little bit more. What are you thinking? Is this a money or mirage play with Robert Spillane?
Probably Spillane, probably more could be a money. Kind of took over the play calling duties again last week. Over Bush. I don't know why he got it in the first place.
I don't either.
But again, he's just not a good not a good linebacker. And I think if Spillane gets the volume, I think he's the guy. It's a play caller that's doesn't leave the field. That's what you need.
Bam. Exactly right. That's exactly right.
Not going to guarantee production, but he's on the field.
That's
all that you need. And then that's all you need. That's all you need right there.
Yep. I will take 9 times out of 10. I'll take snap percentage out of perceived tackle efficiency all day long, just because again, the Damone Clark type conversation is his efficiency is fantastic. But if you didn't know he was going to play enough snaps, I would worry. I think we'll get the snaps out of him, but that is one of the conundrums that you face. Here's another conundrum I face. Do you always follow a huge week and expect something similar? I was big on Andre Sisco last week. I thought that would play well. In turn, Rayshawn Jenkins, a favorite of ours, had the biggest week of anybody ever.
Half a point per snap.
Is that what he averaged?
About a half a point per snap in one of my leagues. It was a half a point. So anytime, no matter the ball was snapped, whether half a point, half a point.
That's incredible. I mean, hell, the crazy thing, from week 13 to 15. So over the course of 3 weeks, he's the defensive back 3. And in weeks 13 and 14, he combined for 9 total tackles and nothing else.
Yeah.
So week 15 was so big, he basically was like,
half of his production? Well, not half, but you know what I mean.
It is 100%. So of his 161 total points in like Fantasy Pro scoring, 40 of them, so 25% came in 1 week.
Yeah.
And the other 50, so 70% came over 3 weeks. Week 5 against Houston, where he had 12 tackles. Week 6 against Indy, where he had 8 and a pass deflection. And then week 12 against Baltimore, where he had 7. And then week 15. So basically, that sounds like a mirage play to me if I'm going to ever jump into one. But it's the Jets. Weather may be impacting. Do we think that? I don't know. What's your take? Money or mirage here?
Well, obviously 18 tackles, and just the 18 tackles is take out the 2 picks and the pick 6. You take those out of the equation.
Right.
18 tackles is unsustainable. But I think even still, up until last week, before the explosion, he was around I think he was between an 8.5 and a 9% tackle efficiency, which isn't horrible for a defensive back. I mean, that's a DB3 type play. So if you're playing 3 defensive backs, I don't necessarily mind it. But if like you're in a 1 DB league, you're like, oh, Jenkins, huge game. Yeah, don't chase those points. Don't go chasing waterfalls.
Exactly. Don't go chasing waterfalls. Perfect. That was if we had a snippet for this show, if anybody's listening that is writing snippets for shows, don't go chasing waterfalls. Rayshawn Jenkins is unfortunately out. Do we go chasing Alohi Gilman if Derwin James is out?
Yes.
I do too. Yeah. He's just, and Chargers love him.
They do.
Beat writers love him. They get him involved. I think the matchup for me against a Colts team, even without Jonathan Taylor, still says that I think that nothing's. I mean, it's Nick Foles now. Yeah. Nothing's getting deep. Everything's going to be, in front of Alohi Gilman for the most part. I'm right there with you. I think he's a money play, but that's the hardest thing to determine is, does a big week prior like Rayshawn Jenkins predicate something big going forward, or is it a bad week where it's like you have to assume, as far as I'm concerned, is that a bad week can be one of two things. It's something that it's going to let it get to you and you're never going to play him again. Because the players gonna play, and the haters gonna hate, baby. I'm just gonna shake it off. Heartbreakers gonna break, and the fakers gonna fake, baby. I'm just gonna shake it off. So to shake it off is something that we have to ask ourselves with 3 players in mind. Number 1, Justin Houston. Here was talk from week 7 through 11. The beat writers, fans of football, Baltimore Ravens pundits were saying Justin Houston is finally utilizing what he has, which is a skill set of savvy, just an intellect and a grab bag of different maneuvers. And he was the defensive lineman number 3 during that time frame. Since that time frame, he's the defensive lineman 202. That's hard to shake off. But do you think this particular matchup, semifinal week, you have the Baltimore Ravens and what I would consider a potentially decent matchup from an offensive line standpoint against the Atlanta Falcons from a pass blocking standpoint, but do the Atlanta Falcons pass enough for Justin Houston to shake off his sackless streak?
He hasn't even been on my radar all year.
Is it correct? Were you shocked that he was a defensive lineman 3?
Yes,
during that month.
He he's never even registered on my periph.
Yeah,
it's
amazing that he was doing that good for that month, and I don't feel like we talked about him at all here. Like, he was so good that it was that would have been the money or Mirage for a month straight that we would have said Mirage. He's 100 Mirage, and it would have been money. Luckily, we didn't mention him, so you're not going to shake that off. I'm assuming, and he can just continue to stay on waivers.
Yeah.
What about Baron Browning? Here he had week 5 and 6 really blew up. We saw those games. I think a lot of people were talking. We were talking. Oh, Baron Browning has good pass rush ability. Here's a situation. We're going to get him. And then he's tanked since then, hasn't done anything productive, but he gets a matchup. It's the Los Angeles Rams, and they suck against pass rushers. Is this a get right game? And can you shake off his previous performance?
I mean, I guess it really all depends on what kind of position designation he has.
We'll go with defensive line.
If he's got a defensive line designation, I mean, you got to be in a pretty deep league. But I mean, if you've been streaming all season and like if you're someone like me that has had like Dietrich, trying to figure out Dietrich Wise or
Yes, I know that
Kenny
league.
Clark or someone else, then yeah, maybe. But unless you're in like a 16-team league and you're really grasping at straws, I just
He's pretty far down there. There's no doubt.
I mean, sacks in 2 of his last 3, I think. Couple of quarterback hits. I mean, it'd be funny if it's one of those guys you kind of just pick up on the wire and start, and he goes off for 3 sacks, and you want to see your opponent's reaction.
Exactly.
You want to be a fly on the wall of your opponent's house when you see Browning go off for like 2.5 sacks, 3 sacks, and your opponent is just like, just go back to the Ken Dorsey reaction when he's just banging up in the press box, just throwing shit all over the place.
And that's exactly what I can picture if I had to start. If you saw someone like that against you.
I think I did something very similar. Did I do? I probably did something very similar where I just was like, all right, I'll just pick this guy up, whatever, and start him. And I think he might have had a good game. I know I've done that a few times over the season.
I would say this. I mean, I put him in here for a reason because I'm very intrigued. Simply because when I look back at the Rams, at what they've done to opposing like outside linebackers, realistically in that 3-4 type formation, or at least a heavy blitz team, Preston Smith last week put up 12 points.
Yeah.
The week before that was Chandler Jones, put up 11 points. Uchenna Nwosu the week before that, granted not the exact same position, but similar, 16. And then players like, granted, again, you have to go back a little bit, but where did he go? I missed it. Doesn't really matter.
The guy Browning is lining up on, Ty in Czechia.
Yes, exactly.
It's an 80 pass block grade.
A what?
It's an 80.
Oh,
which is pretty good.
Yeah, that's better than I expected, actually.
So
I was really painting with a very broad brush with the Rams offensive line and just saying they all suck, and it won't matter who he's lining up against.
I think Baker probably makes him suck because he just doesn't. He holds the ball, but no, he's got an 80. Yeah, he's got an 80 pass block grade according to PFF. And when I look up his stats, in 162 pass block snaps, he's allowed 2 sacks and 3 hurries, so 5 total pressures.
Oh, well, that's not as terrible. It's good to know.
So he hasn't allowed any hits, so pretty efficient. Efficient.
I think probably more. Maybe up the middle. Maybe this would be a little bit foreshadowing to maybe some of my plays or my fades.
He allowed no pressures last week against Green Bay. He was not responsible for any pressures.
So that was all on the right-hand side then.
So that was all on the other side.
Or
so
the left for the defense.
Yeah, he had an 85 grade last week. He's gone 1, 2. So he's gone 1, 2, 4 games of 0 pressures allowed. And 0. All of his games, he has not allowed 1 quarterback hit. So I don't know. He seems pretty decent.
Yeah, that seems really decent. That's definitely something to pay attention to, especially considering this is a person who, in Baron Browning, that needs to utilize and take advantage of a weekend offensive line because he hasn't done much against any competition.
Yeah.
Interesting to know. Let's get to the last one. We talked earlier about Jordan Poyer's injury and not practicing. Damar Hamlin for mid-season had been a defensive back that honestly had been, I want to say, almost a must start potential. What we saw last week is Hamlin playing the majority, nearly 65% deep. Without Jordan Poyer, Damar Hamlin maybe moves up into the box. Are you going to shake off his recent performance and throw him back in? This is assuming Jordan Poyer does not play.
Yeah, Poyer doesn't play. I'd probably look to him as a DB3.
Okay.
Streamer as a DB3. Yeah. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, as a DB3, considering you have to go down. Gosh, where is he at? He is. Yeah, that's exactly where he's at. He's DB 33. So you have him locked in exactly. Chicago, again, pay attention to Justin Fields and what he does if he should play, but there has been a little concern with that shoulder. And so, it sounds like we're not going to we're going to shake off a couple, but we're going to give DeMar Hamlin that benefit of the doubt if Jordan Poyer doesn't play.
Yeah.
We'll talk about some plays here. We'll look at some defensive line and some linebacker, really more plays than fades, because I think it's always more fun to talk about. We're not going to, it's hard to say here. You know what? You say it best.
Okay.
Is there a way to fade any linebacker this week?
So really, and this all stems from some things I've seen kind of tweeted out. Now is not week 16, the semifinals is not the time to get cute with starting or potentially picking up deep sleepers who have had very little usage. So what I'm saying is and this really stems from seeing a lot of Mark Robinson talk.
Boom.
From the Steelers. Robinson had 7 snaps, and those were his first 7 snaps last season, or last week. So what is his ceiling this week? Maybe 15, 20?
Exactly.
Because even though the Steelers are out of, kind of, I don't know, they might be out of it. Maybe they got the same chance as the Browns do. Tomlin seems like Tomlin seems to play his guys.
Yeah.
So it's still going to be Robert Spillane and still going to be Miles or Devin Bush. So those guys are still going to play. I'm not starting a super deep sleeper who's. We talked to Moan Clark. Yeah, he's a deep sleeper, but an opportunity has opened up for him to get 75% or more of the snaps. Plus, he's already been doing that and he has a little bit of a track record of playing volume.
Correct.
So and production. So there's a little bit of a track record, and he's the next in line. There's really I don't see any path for snaps for some of these guys. That Mark Robinson, you want to stash him on your bench in a dynasty? Go for it, because I don't see Bush playing. Bush, I don't think is coming back. I think Miles Jack may have been on a 1 or 2 year deal. I don't know what Spillane is, but you want to pick him up and stash him by all means. But if you're considering starting this guy in week 16, I have to question the process here.
Agreed.
There's nothing that's telling me, and even if he comes out and it comes out on Sunday that he's going to start but starting again is completely different. Starting doesn't mean a 3-down roll. And you know what? If he comes back and he plays 40 snaps, 40, 45 snaps, and that happens, fine, great. But it's not going to change my line of thinking heading into the game that there's no reason to start this guy.
And I don't agree. I don't disagree with anything you say whatsoever. I think it's a shot in the dark for a person. I'll use someone like Zaire Franklin. Early in the season, there was talks about him getting a larger role and not really knowing exactly what's going to happen, because it was between him and EJ Speed. Guess what? We had 15 weeks to see that Zaire Franklin was going to be 100% snap share kind of guy. You don't have that time with him. I even mentioned Robinson.
Go ahead.
No, I mentioned Robinson in my waiver wire, and I even said all this is a tidbit of information to watch for week 16. I should have put in Dynasty only, because everybody in Pittsburgh loves the guy and he's intriguing to watch, and it's a name that needs to be brought up if you want to be clever. And guess what? I'm doing exactly like every other reporter, beat writer, fantasy writer, expert, blah, 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 is you want to have the name attached to it and say, hey, look, see, I knew I was on. I ain't on the shit. I've watched enough. I follow enough people with the Steelers and read enough and see enough tape that they love the guy. And if there's a chance he turns into something, I want to be ahead of the curve. And maybe we'll be ahead of the curve.
Yeah,
but
I have no problem with the dynasty pickup and a stash.
Yeah.
But I mean, if like you're in a redraft or like, you know, even in a dynasty league, and I couldn't even fathom start like putting him in the lineup.
No.
There's no way I'm starting him.
No,
but yes, the stash, absolutely. But now is just not the time to get cute with starting a potential deep sleeper. There's just not the time to do it. You know, you talk Zaire Franklin, at least with Zaire Franklin. Again, Leonard was out for a period of time. In the preseason, you saw him calling the play. So, and that continued in the first couple of weeks. And now, obviously, he's one of the leading tacklers. But
I'll use another example closer to you. Tony Fields or Jordan Klinchik. Yeah.
Klinchik.
I like the fact that they both have shown at different times an opportunity to have a pretty decent tackle, efficiency when they're on the field. They can possess both. Fields had a 20%. Last Knazik had 13%. It's great. I'm not starting either one of those two because there's just not a guarantee. We talked with Muma and Devin. Hell, we're questioning even wanting to start Devin Lloyd because we don't know if you can't 100% say Devin Lloyd to start. If you even think of Robinson, we're doing you a disservice.
Yeah, I mean, and when you see a 13%, and when you see a 13% tackle rate, that could be like 2 tackles on 12 snaps.
That's exactly right.
So
yes,
it's like
perfect example.
It's like, all right, yeah, that's great, but So I mean, when it comes down to it, the linebackers I'm fading are those deep sleepers that have low usage and just you got to the semifinals with what I'm assuming a pretty solid core of linebackers. Yes.
Assume that you lost Jack Sanborn and whatever. Let's do this. Let's say that you have an option and you have a chance to play somebody. Who's a play for you at linebacker?
Well, I mean, he's on rosters. I really like Drew Tranquil's matchup this week. I mean, the Titans are 5th in points allowed to the linebacker position all year. They're 3rd in points allowed since week 11. They've allowed 10 or more tackles to the inside linebacker position in 5 of the last 6. So that's a play. But I mean, if you're looking for like a waiver, like I said, Joe Thomas has we talk about a deep sleeper, but a path has opened up to volume. Now, if it comes out tomorrow that one of the Pittsburgh beat reporters has inside info that Mike Tomlin wants to shake things up and Robert Spillane is probably not going to play, or, Devin Bush isn't going to play and these guys are not going to play, and they say, yeah, Mark Robinson is going to start, and okay, I'm that interests me, but as of right now, there's none of that, and I can't. Like I said, you got to week 16. You're in the semifinals. You got a good group. Why? Yeah, I'm going to bench. I'm going to sit Caden Ellis for Mark Robinson. No, why?
Yeah,
why? Why? Yes. Why would you do that? Even at 50% of the snaps, I'll do Mark Robinson. But no, why would you? But don't do it. Don't.
And I don't have a fade necessarily at defensive. I'll tell you what, what I might fade? I fade my opinion from earlier on Baron Browning and where I was going to move him in my rankings based off of you and I's conversation right now, which I will say, I believe that a lot of our conversation leads to the fact that I have the opportunity to finish decently high in a lot of the overall rankings because we have conversations and we can talk these things out. That's the one thing that most people don't have the benefit of, is an hour-long platform to talk through some of these players and go, oh, yeah, I'm way wrong. But maybe I'll be way right on one of these, and you can tell me what you think. I'm kind of big on Carl Lawson this week. I like the fact that I hate the fact for Jacksonville, because I think I'm rooting for Jacksonville like you are. Cam Robinson being out.
Yeah.
is about as bad a news as you could probably ask for. Don't get me wrong. They have a good fill-in when like they're not just completely resorting to the bottom of the barrel in terms of offensive line. It's going to be Walker Little, who's come in, and Walker Little's actually been thrust into multiple different situations where he's had to play different positions, has filled in decent, I would say admirably. A lot of mine is based on the fact of I believe that Quinnen Williams plays this week, and him lining up next to Carl Lawson. I think that they're going to have to shift so much focus between Fortner and Shatley on the offensive line that I think Carl
Careful
Lawson.
with your language there. Jeez.
Exactly.
Jeez.
Sorry.
Jeez, oh man.
Well, this is a late night show. I've been, I got some red breast.
Well, I guess it is. I guess we're past the FCC guidelines. It's 10 o'clock.
Oh yeah, it is. We don't have much time. So I'm going to lean Carl Lawson. He's way down the rankings. He's hard for me. And again, our caveats to this is not I have one defensive lineman that I'm starting, and I'm not starting him over Myles Garrett or any of the big names, but I have a 3 defensive line league. Carl Lawson's going to move up into that defensive line where I want that big upside when I have 2 solid defensive linemen to begin with. He's going to give me that play. In a defensive tackle league, just to throw this name out there, if Baron Browning, as we said, has a rough matchup, when you go into the interior for the Rams, as bad as that gets, Deshaun Williams has actually been relatively efficient and effective. And I think that he might be the beneficiary of that terrible offensive line that could see that. Again, defensive tackle leagues only. You're not going to move a defensive tackle into a defensive line league. But I like that. I like his upside to give you some sneaky stats in a league that typically you don't get much out of from a defensive tackle. So the last little piece of news we have is to bring our sack in.
So real quick, another linebacker that I think is also a play. Again, we talk about role reversal and usage. I kind of like Troy Anderson. There's kind of been a little bit of a
good call, great call,
a little bit of a changing of the guard. So like Anderson played 80%. Walker just seems to be lost, and Anderson I think is in play. Anderson had 82% of the snaps, so that's kind of another play. Those are the guys that I'm interested in. I'm playing Troy Anderson over someone like Jerome Baker. I'm probably playing him over Willie Gay. Definitely over Malcolm Rodriguez, Anthony Barr, Ernest Jones, those guys. So, if it came down to like Troy Anderson or Josie Jewell, I'll probably play Jewell just because of I got the volume. I got the guaranteed volume. And you know what? I'm all sorts of stubborn. I'll probably take the volume guy, but I think Troy Anderson's in a good spot. And if like you're coming down to like Troy Anderson or Tony Fields, or you're kind of in that range. I like Anderson.
I really do. I love that call because of the snap percentage change that has happened as a result. I will say, like you said, where you put them is cautious, because that Atlanta Baltimore game, my guess is it's probably, I'm going to say combined 65% almost, or 60% run game for both teams.
Yeah.
And that clock is just going to run.
Yeah.
But I do like especially going forward. Hell, let's say you get past this week and guess what? Week 17 and Troy Anderson's still in play. Guess what? The Falcons now get the Arizona Cardinals. And granted, hopefully it's not Trace McSorley and they can move the ball a little bit, but you have at least a better chance of maybe a little bit of offensive plays. So what about your sack lunch? You're packing up. We got to get ready to get out of here. You're making yourself a delicious meal. What are you packing?
I got Zadarius Smith.
Delicious.
With the Vikings. I think in most of his pass rush situations, he should line up on Evan Neal. Neal has a 46.5 pass block grade, according to PFF. He's been responsible for a sack and 3 quarterback hits over the last 2 weeks. He had a 20.2 grade in week 14 and a 36 grade in week 15. So that's the type of matchup I want to take advantage of with Neal not playing very well. He's on the decline. Smith has a 12% pressure rate over the last 4 weeks, 16.4 overall, and a 27% win rate overall in 2022. So for me, that is lining up to have a pretty good game against the Giants and Evan Neal. So I got Zadarius Smith.
I love it. I do. I'm going to take a particular defensive end that I have the most difficult time saying his name, and that's okay. I'm going to eventually figure out the best way to say it. The best way to do it is to honestly just keep watching tape and listening to the announcers for Houston say his name, and we'll say it together. Ogbonia Okoronkwo.
So see the dude lining up over the horrible Tennessee offensive lineman.
Yes. Nicholas Petit-Frey is horrible. And let's be honest, I don't need to go into much detail. Tennessee, I'm taking Hollywood's little focus here. Focus on the Tennessee Titans' terrible offensive line. Houston Oilers, little reference there. And just assume that Ogbonia, I wonder if he has a nickname. I need to figure this out. But he's been phenomenal. I mean, we've watched that over the last really 3 weeks now. Yep. His utilization has been fantastic. His win rate, his pass rush grades, everything has been, his pressure rate's over 20% for like 3 weeks straight now. His pass rush grade to PFF, is borderline elite. And you have a matchup that just, it works, man. So I'm going to take OG OK, and go from there. That's what I call him, OG OK.
I thought you were gonna go Jerry Hughes against Daly, and that's still even a good matchup.
I love that because
Daly sucks too.
I took Jerry Hughes earlier in the year, I believe.
Oh, okay.
If I'm not mistaken, right. So I can't take twice if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. But yeah, Daly sucks too.
Yes, pretty much focus against Tennessee.
The two tackles really suck.
The only thing that causes me a little bit of concern is if I'm Tennessee, I hand the ball off 72 times out of 73 because it's Malik Willis. Tannehill's probably out for the season now, in case you didn't see that.
Yeah.
He might have to require surgery. So, yeah, it should be a Derrick Henry game. But in the 13 times that Malik Willis will have to pass, OGOK is going to get 2 sacks. 1.5 sack is what I'll say. So I'll start there.
You said 2.
I said 2. I can't go back. Damn it. Come on, OGOK. Let's go. I'll get it right. I'll be able to figure his name out when they say it, that he has 6 sacks in the last however many games it is. But I think
their center is good. Let's see who's their Ben Jones is actually
Ben Jones.
Good.
Yeah. The right guard's not
8th,
terrible,
and the right guard is 18th out of 86.
Yeah, Nate Davis is solid. I just think that the way that OG's lined up, he's lined up outside a lot more than over B gapper.
Nicholas Petit-Frere. Yeah, Frenchie there. Yeah, Frenchie. They surrender.
Yes, exactly. As we will be eating croissants on Christmas morning as we watch. Oh, this game's on Saturday, so we'll be bellies will be
Christmas
full.
Morning, and hopefully all of us will have eaten our sack lunches from the previous week.
Exactly. We'll have.
I think I hit on mine. I know I hit on mine. Who did I called Buckner, didn't I?
Yes.
I think I called Buckner, and I know I hit on mine.
I'll double check to make sure. I don't remember who I put. Oh, I took Chris Jones, and I was way wrong. He was drinking what looked like beer on the sideline. It wasn't beer, of course.
I'm sure that's exactly what you wanted. You're like, dude, you're drinking. I called you.
That's what I was doing. I was like, son of a bitch, my sack lunch is on the sideline, cramping up. Time to drink some Rolling Rock or whatever it was, but it was spring water. Didn't help. He looked terrible. Our pass rush as a whole for the Chiefs has been rough, but yeah.
But yeah, I think I called Buckner.
You did. You had Buckner, and you like I said, line up over Evan Ingram, and Evan Ingram was not even remotely slowing them down.
No. And we've got, let's see, what is today? Today's the 21st.
Today is the 21st.
I've got I got 11 days until I can legally bet in Ohio.
Well, you and I will have a conversation on the 1st, and we'll figure this out. And we'll have maybe a segment going forward where we have our Sack Lunch bet of the week, where we collectively put money and we pool money together on our Sack Lunches. And at the end of the year, when we meet up next year for the Fantasy Football Expo, we'll use that said money to buy some drinks.
Let's hope so. But 11 days. And I was using this one site. I'm not going to mention their name, but it's like it's like impossible to withdraw money. I have to withdraw it into like a crypto wallet. And I don't have any of that. And like I hit on a parlay. I'm practicing betting. So I didn't realize I hit on a parlay.
Yeah.
Because I thought I had the Cowboys on my parlay. So I'm like, oh great, Cowboys ruined it. But I didn't.
Oh shit.
So I hit on it. Like I put a $10 bet on it, and came back like $110.
But you can't do anything with it.
I can't do anything with it because I don't have a crypto wallet to withdraw to.
What a ripoff. Well, but more betting conundrum and fantasy upside, hopefully, as we only have one more week left of regular season football. But I'm sure we'll have plenty of postseason as well as recap videos. So for Mike Wohlert, I am Nate Markham. This has been Shoot the Gap week 16. We'll see you next week, everybody.